Hello everyone, my name is Franklin and we have here a TLB 840 Terex backhoe, and the customer says that the transmission went out about 6 years ago and it has been parked ever since. Now he wants to get it fixed and the engine won't start. So in order to bring it to it here, we had to remove the mechanical engaged parking brakes. The parking brake is actually part before the drive axle, right behind the transmission. And what happens is it's spring loaded. So once you cut off the engine, there's no more hydraulic fluid. The springs lock into place and locks the parking brake so the rear axle won't move and the machine won't move. And in order to tow it, then, because the engine won't start, we have to disengage that parking brake. And since there's no hydraulic fluid pushing the brake to disengage it, then we have to disengage the springs. So in order to do that, I'm going to show you how to do that. We have to first block off all the wheels to make sure it doesn't move, and then I'll go through it step by step and show you how to do it. Okay, this is our Terex TLB 840, and the brakes are actually in the lock position because the machine is off. The machine does not start because it's been parked for about 6 years since the transmission went out, and the customer wants to get it going now. In order to tow it, we have to disengage the parking brake manually. And let me show you, not a good picture. If you look right here, you see this right here. Not a good picture. Move some stuff out of the way here. That there is the park brake solenoid. Let's see if we can get a better picture of it. There it is. That is your park brake solenoid right here. And this is the coil that engages. So when you push that parking brake button, after the machine's running and you're ready to go, you push that park brake button, and what it does is it opens this up. And then once that's opened up, hydraulic fluid flows through this valve to the parking brake, which is below there, and disengages the springs, and that allows your machine to move. However, if the machine doesn't start, you won't have any hydraulic pressure. The machine will come on, but that light there won't light up because there won't be enough pressure in it. The brake won't disengage. So what I'm going to show you how to do is disengage the brakes and take it out of the park position manually so that you can operate the machine. Well, you cannot operate, you can tow it. First thing you want to do is unplug this here so it won't get damaged. Let's see if we can get it out here. It has a little tab in the back that you got to squeeze. Let me see if I can see it. Oh yeah, I see it. You push the little tab in, and then you pull it out. Easier said than done. Pushed it in. Okay, it's out. Okay, now if you notice there's 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, but only 2 screws. So in order to disengage the brake, it's a real simple procedure. First, you put some blocks on the wheels so the machine can't roll away or hurt anybody, just for safety. And then you take these 2 screws out, this one and this one. Once you take it out, you rotate it to the left 45 degrees, a quarter of a turn. This thing right here, the solenoid, will be on this side right here. And then what you'll see here, see a little grease fitting down there? It will be sticking out this way. And then you bolt it back up. Once you've bolted it back up, you pump grease into the grease fitting that sticks out here. I'm going to show you. And then what that does is it applies the pressure up against the brake and disengages it. Instead of using hydraulic pressure, you're using pressure from a grease being pumped in there by hand. And I believe it's supposed to be like 5 nanometers of pressure. Not too much, a few pumps. You can see when it disengages. If you jack it up, the wheels will move. You just jack it up and pump it in there until the wheels are disengaged, the brakes off, then you can tow it. The deal is, though, once you have gotten it disengaged and you get to where you're going, you got to get the grease out of there. And that's another job in itself. We'll do that also. We'll do that next. Okay, so first, let's take this right here. That is a 13 millimeter. These 2 screws right here are 13 millimeter, and I found it easier to use this little 13 millimeter ratchet wrench because not a lot of space in here. So I find it easier Just to take it, loosen it up here. It's tight. Let's try it again. This way here. Maybe this will come off first. Okay, that one loosened up. So we'll loosen this one up here. Loosen this one up here. Like that. Take this. Just loosen it up with your, once you get it loose, just kind of loosen it up with your hand and leave the screw in there for a minute. That's completely loose. Now we'll get this other one's a little tighter. Looks like. There she goes. Okay. Now we got the second one. And once we get this off, you'll see 3 little black O-rings. You want to make sure that they stay in place. You know, sometimes they stick on the top and come loose and fall down. You have to replace them, so make sure they're still in there. So you pull this out. See it right here, and you just turn it. Take a look. You see the 3 O-rings are there. 1, 2, 3. You turn it 45 degrees like this. Here. You'll have to move the screws over. This screw you'll have to move over here. And this one here. Okay. See a little hole there. Oops, careful. Oops, that outer ring moved. Put it back in place there. That one back in place. There we go. There's one. Now the easiest way to do this, you can jack it up if you want, so the back wheels are off the ground, and then you can turn it with your hand. When the brakes are off, you should be able to move it with your hand. It'll be free once you mechanically remove the brakes. So you tighten these 2 bolts up here all the way, and then you'll be able to see this. You see this right here? So all you do is you get your grease gun and pump it up with grease, and that will push the parking brake and disengage it. It'll push the springs in and disengage the parking brake. And then once you do that, once that's done, you can tow the machine. You can pull it anywhere you want. If you want to jack it up, make sure the wheels are loose, that's fine. Or you can push it and see when the wheels move, and that's fine. Whatever you want to do, whatever's easier for you. But you can usually tell once it's, if you got it slanted a little bit, you can see it move just a tad once it's disengaged. Now, farther down here, in the bottom shaft, you got this pump here, and you can't see my hand, but down below there is the plate for the parking brake where that bottom shaft is. We'll get on there. Okay, now to get this machine here, I already disengaged the parking brake. I'm just showing you how I did it. So, the problem is, before I can use it again, I'm going to have to drain the transmission oil and take off that plate and clean all the grease out. Then flush it out of this valve and flush that valve where the grease pumped in, the little hole that goes down to the brake. Have to flush that hole, all the canal out there, the little hole, and flush out the brakes. And make sure that there's no more grease in there. Then we put no hydraulic oil in there, or a brake fluid, so transmission fluid back in there. And then once we get it filled up again, then we can actually operate it normally. Now this machine, the customer said the transmission didn't work, but since it sat for 6 years, it didn't start. So all we're going to do today And this film is we are going to disengage the brakes, which we already did. And then we're going to open this up and clean all the grease out, put it back in function so it operate what the brakes operate where it's supposed to operate, because we already told it here. And then we're going to work on getting it started. And then that'll be the end of the video. And then when we start working on the transmission, once we get it started, we'll make a different video, a new video, checking out the transmission. Okay, we are here under the tractor. Okay, you see this right here? That's your brake, your parking brake system right there. So since this brake is engaged already because it's mechanically, the spring engages, you put power to it, and then that opens the solenoid. Lets fluid go through hydraulically, it disengages the brake, and then the shaft can turn, so you can go forward and backwards. But if it's off, there's no hydraulic pressure at all, so it's not going anywhere. Now, so what we're going to have to do to get to this thing, we are going to have to take off this little shaft here. And then once the little shaft is off, we'll take out these bolts here. We'll take out this nut. There's a nut right there, and there'll be a washer, and there'll be a little O-ring, and we'll take those off. And these will take off staggered. One here, one there, one here. We'll take them all off around. We'll do one on this side, one on that side, staggered so it comes off evenly because there's a spring in there. And we want to take off, we want to get stuck, but we want it to come off evenly. And then we'll take off all that stuff and clean it out real good. So first things first, we are gonna first take off these. We've got to remove this little shaft in order to get to that. So the first thing we'll do is disengage those. And let's see. I don't think you want to watch me take those 4 bolts out. So I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to remove this one, this one, this one, and this one. I believe it's a 5/16. I'm going to use a ratchet, 5/16 ratchet, 1/4 inch drive. One of these suckers here. I'm going to take those 4 out. Hopefully we can get this here to lay down, hang down. Because then we got to take off this right here. There's a nut right there. We're going to pull that bolt out. And then there's a washer. And there's a little rubber O-ring. I'll show you. And O-ring you got to replace. You can't use the same one. So we'll do that. We'll get to that. And let me take this off. And I'll be right back. Okay. We are going to take these off. These 4 here. Okay. Kind of hard to do with one hand. Let's see. Watch out for big spiders and wasps. Sometimes these machines have big spiders. Huge, ugly spiders up under here and wasps. Once when I looked up and a possum was looking at my face. Yeah, be careful up under this crap. Possum was looking at me. I was looking at him, and the babies were on his back. And he went, and then I ran. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. switch hands here. Okay, you can see I took this shaft off. I just took off those little clips and I moved it to the side. Be careful, this one here and that one there don't fall off because they have them little tiny long bearings in there and they fall off. If you want, you can put tape around it so it won't fall off, but I usually just take care of it. So, as you can see, I have this ratchet right here. It takes the ratchet socket right there. It fits in that little hole right there. So, you don't have to use a socket or anything. The ratchet actually fits in there. And then you just kind of loosen it up to take out the transmission fluid. See, it's already loose and coming out of there. Just kind of, and once you get that, get your good, get out of the way, because sometimes it splatters, the wind's blowing. Whatever you don't want to get oil on, you want to move out of the way, because it doesn't always go nice and neat. It usually makes a mess. And you kind of screw it in, but hold it in while you're turning it. Make sure you hold it up against there and then pull it off. See that? Made a mess big time. Even if it was a lot of stuff, it's still spilling too. It's coming out really fast. Okay, there she goes. Actually didn't have too much in there. Okay, but it's all coming out. So once we get it all out, this over here is a little bit dry. So then I wanted to get that out so we could check that little deal on the side, that little strainer. So what we'll do is, what comes next, we're going to pull this. There's a nut right here. This nut here has to come off. And then there's a washer on it. I'm sorry, a bolt. It's a bolt there. And a washer around it, a flat washer, and then there's a rubber O-ring under that. So you pull this bolt out first, and then you get this, this washer off, and the O-ring under it. And let me go find the ratchet to get that off, because I didn't bring it. We put this up here, the nut, so it won't, in a place where you won't lose it. And that's pretty much drained there. I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on, so we don't lose it. It actually was pretty clean, so obviously they must have been changed recently, but it doesn't look like they changed the strainer yet. We'll check the strainer too. Since that's off, let me go ahead and pull that strainer off. 1 second. Okay, we'll check the strainer right there. It looks like someone may have already took it off because it's usually pretty covered with dirt and crud if they've never been checked. So it's a 13 millimeter. It's probably already been changed and checked out. So, but we'll check it anyway. Since we're going to drain the oil, we might as well check it out anyway. And this one as well. If you got a John Deere tractor or any kind of a tractor with one of these strainers on it, you definitely want to check it at least once a year, usually twice. Once you take it out, though, you got to drain the oil out and put new oil in it. But it is very important to make sure the strainer's clean, because I've seen many of them. The tractor will not move at all if it has a dirty screen. But this one, I believe, has been moved and cleaned already, because you can see the oil was really clean, so I think they must have changed it. Yeah. How bad is it? Nah, it's clean. So this one has already been cleaned out. It looks like a brand new one, because they're usually pretty cruddy. This one is brand new. You can get a good look at it. And if you have one of these machines, you need to check it out often. Not often, well, at least once or twice a year. Whenever you change your transmission, or you want to take that out, take a good look at it. This one is in good shape. So we'll put it back in so it won't get lost. And it's got a little O-ring there. Make sure the O-ring gets put back in place before you put the cover on. Cover this sucker. Wrong one. Okay, where did it go? Here we go. Put that back on. Okay. Tighten it back up. Okay. Okay, so now we want to take off this nut right here, and once we get that nut off, we'll be able to clean it out, get it back in action after we release the parking brake. Okay. You can see it's not on there very tight. It just pops right off. Oh, but you want to make sure you don't lose any of those bearings inside of there. So let's pop it off without I'll take the phone off and pop it off so I won't damage anything. Okay, you can see I have removed this piece out of there, little gear. So now that that's off, I'm going to loosen these up. But you don't loosen them up all around. You loosen like this one up, then that one, and this one. You loosen up staggered with a spring back there. You want it to come off evenly, so you don't do it this one in order around. You do one here, and then one over there, one over here, one over there. You kind of stagger it so it comes off evenly. And I'm going to need a small extension to get to these two here. I have the socket here. The socket is what's that? It's a 11/16 socket. So, but you're gonna need a short extension, a 2-inch extension to get to this one over here, and this one right here. And I noticed this right here. You see that? There's supposed to be a pressure switch there that sticks out. It's usually about 3 or 4 inches longer, but it looks like it's been broken off. And it shouldn't work without that. I don't know why it's not there. It's not even there. I think they knocked it off. What it is if you lose your transmission pressure, it's supposed to cut off the transmission. So it means you don't have enough oil. That's what that means. And so, but I think it's bypassed because the light comes on and there's a wire inside of the jumping from one reader to the other one. So most likely they have it bypassed. So, but we'll check it out. We'll check it out anyway. But for the meantime, first I'm gonna go get a short extension and take these off so we can pull this cover off, clean it out, and put this back to where it's supposed to be. And then we'll put this one here back, the little solenoid. It had a grease fitting where we greased it to make it disengage the brakes. So it needs to be taken off and put back in its original position. Turn it back. This one here will be sticking out this way. And that's the original position it was in. So once you tow it and get it to where you're going, you gotta put this back to where it was. You gotta open this up, drain the oil, clean all of the grease out, and put it together. Then it'll be back in the original position, so you'll have brakes again. Because the way it is now, you can't operate it. The brakes won't cut off. The brakes won't go back on. The parking brake won't work properly. So we'll do that. Let me get a little extension. Be right back. Okay, I've taken out this one, this one, this one, and this one, and also one on top. There are two on top. This one's a little shorter, and that one's a little shorter right there. This one here, I could not fit the socket in there, so you're gonna have to use an 11/16 wrench to get that one out, just to loosen it up, and then you can use your fingers. The rest of them you can get out with 11/16 socket and a 2-inch extension. So just so you'll know, and you can do it slowly because it has a spring there that's holding the brake in. So I want to make sure you okay. Do it slowly and leave one in on the other side. Okay, here. Okay, let's loosen this one up a bit. I left two of them on there. These last two, which I'm going to take out slowly because of the spring. A bit at a time. One on each end. And I'm going to get out of the way because sometimes they do fly off pretty fast. But this one shouldn't. We'll take take out a little bit at a time. The spring, because it has the grease in there, the grease is probably giving it a little more pressure than it normally would have up against that brick. And then the spring, of course, that holds the brake locked up. Seems to have loosened up a bit now, so it shouldn't be so bad. Okay. Do a little bit on one. All the other bolts are already out. I only left on 2, 1 on each end. We'll take these alternately, slowly, one at a time, so it comes off evenly and doesn't get kinked. And just gotta be careful. There's a seal here. I'm gonna be sure you don't damage it. I'm gonna pull it straight out, not down, because you don't want to damage that seal. That seal sits in the other shaft, and we don't want it to be leaking transmission fluid. So I'm gonna take it out slowly. Okay. The bolts are loosed, and take it straight out, not to the down, not up. You want it to come straight out. Okay. Okay, yes, that's already loose. So we're good now. Okay. Uh-oh. A little bit of oil stuck in there still. No. We're about to pan now. Too late for that. Okay. Okay. Take out this top one here. Okay. Let's put this in here. Like that. It's a heavy sucker. Okay. Metal. See all that grease in there? Came out through there. In the back. Oh. Maybe I dropped it or something. Okay. Got the bolts out. More grease in there. Okay, we're gonna pull this piece out here. Okay, we'll put it down. Same way as we took it off. Put it like that. This one here, the spring. Says, okay. Weird about that sucker. And this is the brake. Okay, just like that. And there appears to be a lot more. It appears I don't see much oil in there. Don't see any grease. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's see. That's where we're supposed to come in at. Huh. This is where the grease and the oil are supposed to come in at. And it appears to be clogged up right here. So, no oil has been coming down through here to disengage the brake. And no grease either. So, the transmission is probably good. Let's see. Yeah, the pressure switch is on there. Let's see. Let's take this off here. So, little grease hole there is clogged up. So, no pressure was coming down through here to disengage the brake. Let's cut that off for a second. Okay, as you can see, we got it all cleaned out. Got these pieces all cleaned up. Got all the grease off of them. There's the brakes, and there's that. And that little slot we cleaned out. See a little hole right here that goes up to the top to the brake solenoid. We spray that out with some carburetor cleaner, and then sprayed in some PB blaster. And now we'll be ready to put it back in. So we'll turn this around. We'll put all these back in just as they are, one at a time, and then cover it back up. And I'll have to leave my two hands for this one, so I'll have to take off the camera. But we'll put it back together, and then your brakes will be back to where they were originally. They will be locked again, and that way they'll be safe. Okay, as you can see, I have the cap back on, and I tightened it up. All the bolts, the two short ones go up here on top. Now I'm ready to put the yoke back on. And I don't know if you remember, but see that little mark right there? I put a little mark on it, so I would put it back on in the exact same place, which is actually just straight down. That way I wouldn't have any problem putting on this drive shaft. And look like that, see this little mark here? It lines up with that mark right there and that mark right there, so it's straight down. That way this right here piece should fit right in there with no problems. So that goes on there, and then this nut and this washer and on there. Okay. And that nut there is 3/4. We'll tighten that one up. Okay, now this piece should fit in there. Looks like we're going to need both of the hands for this one, so I'll get back with you. Okay, as you can see, we got everything, the small U-joint, small drive shaft back in there. Got the cover back on, and it's all cleaned out, got all the grease cleaned out. Now we need to go up top and put the brake solenoid back in its original position. Okay, let's do a little recap. Okay, the brakes were, the parking brake was engaged. We needed to tow the machine, so we had to mechanically disengage manually the brakes so that it could be moved. So we took out these 2 screws here and turned it counterclock, turned it 1/4 of a turn clockwise. That made this grease fitting available. So we pumped grease in there and disengaged the park brake. Just a few pumps. Don't put too much. Just enough to get the brake swing disengaged. It's best if you lift it up, then pump in and move the wheels until the wheels turn freely, and then you can just stop pumping. You want to put too much grease in there. And then once you got your truck moved, your tractor moved to where you want it to be moved to, then you want to disengage. You want to actually disengage it. You want to put it back to where it was. The problem is that you got to get the grease out of the system. So in order to do that, you got to drain the oil out, and then remove that cover removed on the bottom, take the brake apart, the piston in the back, clean all the grease out, clean the grease out of this canal, and then this one here, you put it back in its original configuration. You unscrew it. It only has 2 screws. You turn it to where it looks like this. And then you screw it down. Once you do that, it's back. You put the oil back in the system, fill it up, and cut it on. Your brakes will be working again. Fill the transmission oil. Don't forget, check your level with the dipstick. Oh, right over here, and you'll be good to go. That concludes this video. If it was any use to you at all, please hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to add that ATF1 transmission oil. It takes about 3 gallons. Take it easy.